So we're talking about how to share a story with the youth, and there's a couple of things that I like to keep in mind when it comes to sharing story. The first thing is active listening. We always want to practice being silent, observant, understanding, and listening with our youth, and before we find a place where we can share our story. And when we do share a story, we want to make sure that we're only sharing the pieces of our story that are relevant to what we've heard from the youth, and where they're at and what's important to them. So for example, if a youth was sharing with me the issues they have with their siblings, then I'm not going to share with them the issues that I've had with some of my trauma that aren't connected to the issues that I've had with my siblings and dysfunctions at home. I think it's also important to be comfortable sharing our stories with professionals and family members, because they might also want to understand, one, parents, where we're coming from and how we can relate to their youth. They also like to hear where we're coming from so that they can feel a normalcy with their kids. And professionals like to know so they can make other referrals, and they can know how we're connected to youth that we have now. So Corday, if you can share with me, as being Quincy, parts of your story, and then I will jump in with how I could relate for an example.
Okay, so like I said before, I was referred to you because I violated probation. I was smoking. Reason why I was smoking was probably because me and my family didn't get along, so I turned to something that pretty much would help me feel good about myself, but it only lasted for 15 minutes. Like, we used to always fight in the house, argue. I can't really figure out why we just didn't get along, but we just didn't. And I always had thoughts of running away and thoughts of just being alone, but I never had thoughts of hurting myself.
Okay, I can understand where you're coming from with that. With me and my family, it was a lot just chaotic, if that is that kind of what you meant.
Yeah.
Just feeling a lot of chaos, a lot of arguing. My parents were never on the same page, and my brothers and I, we just kind of did our own thing in some ways with our parents not being on the same page. We argued all the time. Sometimes it was physical, sometimes it wasn't. And I actually got to a point where all I would do was drink. I drank a lot. I went to rehab over it when I was 14, and it was just over that chaos and wanting to not think about it for a little bit. But now I would say if I had this process when I was that age, I probably would have tried to come up with a plan on a different way to deal with it. And so I wouldn't have wanted to go through rehab and all the things that I did. Now I plan around things like that. When things are chaotic, what can I do? And so I think that our process can really help you have different options right now.
Well, it's good to know that I'm not alone in this, because a lot of the times I look at the people around me and I only think I'm the only one going through this. So it's good to hear that I'm not alone and there's someone else out there that has some of the same issues.
And that's why I'm here.